What you're looking at here is the inside of a human brain that has been sliced in half this way. And that little region down there is a part of your brain known as the hippocampus. Now, it's involved in things like memory and navigation, so how you get from your house to the grocery store, and how you remember what you need to buy when you actually get there. That's cool and all, but that's not the real reason I'm talking about it. The real reason I'm talking about it is the hippocampus is involved in stress response regulation, and it might actually be smaller in people with poor mental health. More on that later. Now, you've probably heard some version of that story where somebody's life is in danger and they suddenly get superhuman strength out of nowhere. You probably won't be getting Popeye levels of super strength anytime soon, unless you're like Brian Shaw or something. But there's still some truth to these stories. Your stress response can turn down your rest and digest system, and then it can turn up your fight or flight system. And that does things like null out your pain perception, it can make you way more alert, and yes, it can provide your muscles with way more energy and resources so they can go all out. The rest and digest system and the fight or flight system, they're both parts of your nervous system, and they're both always on because they're controlling the things you're not thinking about, like your heartbeat. But their level of activity is going to go up or down depending on the situation you're in. So let's give you a highly relatable example. You're in the middle of a safari and a lion opens your car door. All these parts of your brain are going to do different things, from remembering that one lion horror movie you watched as a kid to associating that memory and that lion with the emotion of fear, to figuring out what you need to do next to actually stay alive. All that information feeds into this little area here known as the hypothalamus. Once all that information feeds into that part of your brain, it's going to kick off two systems with ridiculously long names. They are the HPA axis and the SAM system. The SAM system is activated during what I call the jump scare phase. It's basically a bunch of nerves from your brain to the rest of your body that result in a big spike in adrenaline, and that causes you to take action really quickly and get yourself out of the bad situation. The SAM system is why you feel your heart drop in your chest when you get scared by something. It's the reason why you would jump out of the way of a speeding car before you even realize what's actually happening to you. Alright, let's say the guy who almost hit you, he's got road rage and he jumps out of the car screaming at you. Okay, your HPA axis takes over at this point to keep you stressed a little longer. This system communicates using hormones rather than nerves and results in a release of cortisol into your blood. Hormones signal quite a bit slower than nerves, so this creates more of a long-lasting effect. Now, all you need to know about adrenaline and cortisol is they're both there to give your body all the energy it needs to get you out of that dangerous situation. The SAM is short-lived, so if the threat leaves, then the nerves stop signaling. But the HPA axis is much slower to respond, and it just kind of keeps pumping out cortisol. That's fine, because as the cortisol builds up in your blood, it actually binds back to your hippocampus in your brain, which we talked about before, and that actually shuts the whole system down, unless you stay stressed for too long. In the modern world, stress can come in a lot of different forms, like world news and financial stress and workplace stress, social isolation, climate anxiety, existential dread, that kind of slow creeping feeling that everything you do kind of has no significance in the grand scheme of the cosmos as you are forced forward through the unstoppable ticking of time. These kind of threats tend to keep people stressed out for a long period of time. Some studies show that a chronically high level of cortisol actually causes damage to the parts of your brain that try to regulate your stress response, like your hippocampus. Put simply, the longer you stay stressed, the harder it is to turn that system off. This could explain why the hippocampus seems to be smaller in many people with mood disorders like depression and PTSD. So the solution must be then to lower your cortisol, right? Well, cortisol is an important part of the stress response, but it's more like an end product of it. What I want to do is look at techniques that lower the entire fight or flight response and how those might work. The first is exercise. Aerobic exercise actually sets off, believe it or not, the same stress pathways we just mentioned. But in this context, it actually helps to train your mind and your body to become resilient to that experience of stress. Plus, you get the release of awesome brain chemicals like BDNF, which helps to grow and protect your hippocampus, and feel-good chemicals like endorphins and serotonin. Breathwork is another technique, and it's basically just breathing intentionally in a particular way, but the way you do it matters. 4-4 breathing or box breathing, you can see me doing that here. It's a very common type, and it basically just works by activating your rest and digest system. When you get anxious, you may not even realize how erratic your breathing is getting. Taking a moment to breathe intentionally and slowly basically just tells your brain that you're safe and actually lowers your fight or flight system. Your diet and your gut microbiome probably play a huge role in your mental health as well. You can check out the entire video I made on that right here, and if it's not popping up there, you can check back on my channel. There are many treatments and lifestyle changes that may actually help with anxiety. I've put a small list together here of some common ones. And there are even more controversial ones that are under study, like psychedelic assisted therapy, which is actually showing some promise. This is not the same as doing mushrooms in your room, okay? This is in a clinical setting with trained professionals. just letting you know. Now, I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember, and I've tried a lot of these techniques. But one thing I can say about lifestyle changes is they take a bit of time to have an effect. And even then, there's no one size fits all solution for everyone. But there are so many different things out there to try, and a healthcare professional can help you explore those things. For example, there's this strategy known as emotional reprisal, where you basically trick your mind into believing that your feeling of anxiety is actually a feeling of excitement. And that works because those two emotions, anxiety and excitement, are physiologically nearly identical. Just remember, what seems safe and effective for one person may not be safe or effective for another person. An example is cold exposure. I love cold showers, but they can actually be dangerous for some people, or just not work. I think that understanding the stress response is super important in helping people find solutions if they need them and ask the right questions. Plus, if and when stress does pop up, maybe people can cut themselves some slack. However, breaking down the science of the stress response into chemicals and nerves can make you feel like you can hack the system. While a lot of these techniques are very effective, humans are very complicated, and sometimes you need that therapist or that doctor to help you find the right solution. To help you get started, I've put some resources in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a stress management technique that you use that wasn't mentioned, please feel free to share in the comments below. I'd love to read about it. I want to give a quick shout out to Race Illustration for her amazing work on visual design, animation, and storyboarding, as well as Shannon Hugo for her help with writing the script, editing the script, and fact-checking the script. This project would not have been the same without them. I've put their portfolios and their website in the description below. Other than that, I just want to thank you again for watching. It would really help if you like and subscribe. And yeah, that's it. See ya.